If what you're doing feel like it's all work and there's no reward and no reward in sight, that doesn't mean that you suck. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. That doesn't mean you're destined for failure and sadness and woe. Well, hello, and welcome to this week's training from the Coaches Plaza. My name is Amanda Kaufman, and I help coaches build businesses that they absolutely love. And this is our weekly live where I'm going to share with you a strategy that can help you grow your business to the next level. And so if you can see me and hear me, let me know in the chat. Well, hello. I'm glad you're here. And hey, by the way, if you've got a coachy friend who would love some great training every week completely for free, send them over to next5clients.com. That's next5clients.com. And you are going to be sending them to our Clients Over Chaos community, which is where we send you reminders about these lives. We actually have the entire replay available for you and a library started over there of all of the past trainings that we've done. And we've covered a lot of things. Today, we're going to be focused on one of the biggest questions that I think causes a lot of nerves, which is, what do I do if I think I might need to pivot? Okay, so specifically, I'm talking about like pivoting your niche or pivoting your focus, like who's your ideal client. Maybe it's even pivoting your business model. Maybe you're going from private coaching to group coaching, or you did some group coaching, it wasn't for you, you want to do more private coaching. We're going to talk about the art of the pivot today. And I couldn't be more excited to have you here. I would love to know, what is your number one question? If you are here, what is your number one question when it does come to pivoting your niche or pivoting your business? Maybe there's like a hesitance that comes up for you with just doing that. Or maybe you have a little bit of, you tell me, what's your question? Let me know in the chat. Just take 30 seconds. And we're going to talk about this really openly because, look, I have pivoted this business. It's cool that I've been a coach and an entrepreneur for over 8 years now. I'm working on my 9th year. Yay! I've got the cool branding that I've built, and I've done many different programs, many different experiences. I've hosted live events, memberships, done countless webinars, and did the G. It's been a ride. And I'm just going to be straight with you. There have been moments of pivot. I have had to pivot. I wasn't able to just perfectly on the first day of being an entrepreneur get it right. And here's the really rude thing about pivoting and why I'm doing a whole training about pivoting. Did you know that there's never an arrival point? There's never this place where you just build a perfect, stable, slow moving coaching business that has the feel of a bureaucratic enterprise like a government office. This summer I became an American, and so I spent some time in the government offices, and that office has been that office for a long time, and they've got their rhythm and they've got their flow, and it's but that's a bureaucracy, right? So bureaucracy is like when you have a government that is operating the same way. There's really no changes, even if the rest of the world seems to be changing. It is slow to change. If you are an entrepreneur, if you're building a business that is heavily utilizing the intranet, then you are probably not building a bureaucracy. You're probably building a business. And by the way, a lot of people, they do this because they want to have time and financial freedom. Okay, so if you build yourself a cage of it's always the same and it's not really exciting, but it's really not so bad, and you're kind of going at that kind of a place with the business, you're going to find that it's just not ever going to really be all that exciting in times of time and financial freedom, right? Because you're not taking any risks. So if this is resonating, let me know. So got a couple of questions that came in. We're definitely going to address these. When would you know that you should pivot, and what are the signals? So good. So we'll definitely do that. How do you guys feel about us talking about the how? Because I'm just going to tell you right now, you will have to. You will have to pivot at some point. You will have to pivot either your message that you're putting out there, you're going to have, maybe you grow. That's the other thing that nobody tells you. You grow. Who here's grown in the last 5 years, right? Like you've changed your behaviors, you've changed your perspectives, you've changed your capabilities. You're different. You're a new person, right? I think sometimes the resistance to pivoting is it comes from this actually a fixed mindset where you think that you're kind of like just fixed in the universe, kind of the way that they used to think that the sun, moon, and stars revolved around the earth, right? Like that's kind of a fixed mindset. It's like you think the world is kind of revolving around you and you stay completely same. No, right? Like that's, of course, that's not what happens, right? Yeah, that is you. Cool. How do you know when you're working in something that's a good niche for you? Tracy, that's such a good question. I love it. Okay, so let's break this down. I got my notes. I didn't do pretty slides this week, but I hope you can forgive me. I did prepare. Okay, so let's talk about the signs. We're going to start there, and then you can tell me whether you might be headed for a pivot or whether you're right on track, okay? And we're going to do this very scientifically. You're going to say pivoting in the chat if you think you might be headed for a pivot or you're in the middle of one. And if you're like, nope, no need to pivot, we're just like gonna stay right here and ride this line, then it's on track. So don't answer yet because we're gonna go through the exercise first and then you respond. Okay, so first of all, I just want to say, like, if what you're doing is thank you, I'm forgiven, that's good. If what you're doing does not feel like, if you feel like it's all work and there's no reward in sight, okay, that doesn't mean that you suck. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. That doesn't mean you're destined for failure and sadness and woe. Like, it doesn't mean any of that. It might mean that you do need a pivot. So your business, the key word is evolution. You're going to evolve. And especially if you're heavily dependent on the internet, because guess what? A little thing called AI came out pretty recently. You guys heard of it? Right? It's made a big difference. But also just like internet speed is different. Social platforms have changed, right? Like there's just even the baseline expectation that there will be social media connection and social content has shifted dramatically in the last 5 years. So it's like, don't feel bad if you feel like you need to shift or change because everybody does. Like everybody does. There's no point in feeling bad about it. So here's some clues that it might be time to pivot, or maybe, you might be just totally on track. Like that's okay too. So here's the first thing. The first thing is that you're dreading the content that you used to love making. You're dreading the content that you used to love making. So maybe you're dreading writing a blog post. Maybe you're dreading going live. Maybe you're dreading, shooting a video, or even just talking about the subject anymore. Like if the subject is just old and tired and annoying, then you might be getting out of alignment, right? The second thing is, and this is really big, you might be getting interest, as in like people will take your coaching for free or they'll respond to you on social media, but you're not getting the interest from really right fit clients. So what do I mean by right fit clients? Right fit clients are people who are a pleasure to spend time with. They can afford your services. They're eager to gain support in the area that you like to support in, right? So there's really heavy alignment in the person that you're talking to. If you get the sense that like you're talking but everybody's broke that you're talking to, or broke in, right? And here's the thing that a lot of coaches don't realize is that a lot of people will defend their fixed mindset and they will defend their victimhood because that's how they get what they want in their life. So if you're trying to be like the savior of a coach, this is one of the biggest things that coaches have to be very, very mindful of, is that if you're going in to rescue someone who identifies with struggle, they identify with being the victim, they're not ready for change yet. And if they're not ready for change, then they're not ready for a coach, right? So I really want to make sure you got this one. So can you put in the chat, change equals coach, right? Because if they're defending their circumstances, if they're defending and blaming, and they're not taking personal responsibility for change, that is okay, but that's not necessarily your person, right? And I hate saying your person because I never want to throw out the person. People change, right? I believe that fundamentally. I can't be a coach unless I believe people change, right? But let me just ask you this. Have there ever been seasons where maybe you had a friend who was really stubborn? They were just stubborn. They were stuck. And maybe you felt stubborn and stuck from time to time. But then, like, what happened? You had to activate. You had to decide as an adult that you were going to unstick yourself. And then you might have decided to enroll in a program or hire a coach or get a book or, whatever it was that you needed to do to facilitate your own internal change, right? Can I get a yes in the chat if you're like, yeah, I've been stuck. I got myself unstuck. I've done it before, right? The person who is getting unstuck is your client, not the person who's defending their stuck. Because the person who defends their stuck, the last thing they want to hear is you can change. Right? Because they're like, I know. And they're defending it. They're like, you don't know me. You don't know. You know what I'm talking about? So the same person can have a season of stuckness. And so it's not that we're throwing out whole people. We're just saying, you're not ready yet. Right? And I love the old story of the dog that was like snoozing on a porch. And there was a nail sticking up through the board on the porch. And the dog stays sleeping on the nail. And the guy says to the owner of the dog, is like, why is your dog not moving? It's like, clearly, it's uncomfortable to be sleeping on a nail. And the owner goes, oh, it just doesn't hurt enough yet. And I want you to think about your own moments of stuck. Like in your own moments of stuck, it was probably, and I'm just guessing, that it was so painful you just had it. It was so painful you moved, right? And that's kind of what you're looking for. You're not looking for somebody who's dozing on the nail, and continuing to sleep with the nail. Yeah, it is so true, isn't it? Okay, cool. So if you're getting interest, but you're not getting interest from the right people, you might have to pivot. And you know what? It could be a micro pivot. It could be like a little change. Like just try a different message, slightly different message. And you would be so super surprised how, I don't know why I'm talking about dogs so much, but it's a little like a dog whistle. Like when you get the right message, it's going to pull in the right person consistently, right? Okay. Third thing, if you just spend a lot of time secretly daydreaming that you're going to help a different person in another way, it might be time. Okay. So, because seriously, if you're in this in-between space with your business, you're not sure that you really want to help people like that or help people with that, right? Like that and with that. Those are kind of the words that I think of is, do I want to help somebody like that? And do I want to help with that, right? And if the answer is like, not really, then it's time for a pivot. It's time for a pivot. And let me tell you something else. As a coach who works with coaches, there are coaches that I don't like working with. She said it out loud on a screen. It's like, oh my God, no, but it's true. Like there's certain kinds of coaches that I don't really resonate with and they don't really resonate with me. And that's okay, right? That's 1,000% okay because my perfect person, I will work with them all day long. I have like practically unlimited patience for that person because I get them. They get me. There's like high resonance. You know what I'm saying? Right? We don't all resonate with each other. It's okay. We don't need to get mad on a Monday, but it is useful to understand, like if on average you're spending time with people that just like kind of drain your soul, then it's time to pivot. So I don't know if you were thinking maybe I might tell you there's a dollar figure or like a deadline for when you need to pivot. Nope. I actually really think that you already know, right? You already know if something is out of alignment. And I'm a big fan too of, yes, measuring those things. So if you're like looking at the bank account and you're like, whoo, that's looking dangerous. Yeah. Well, how does that make you feel? Right? If it makes you feel threatened, if it makes you feel insecure, then time to pivot. Okay? Please hear me. If your bank account sucks and it makes you feel bad, then it's time to pivot. Okay? And it's pivoting the message. It could be pivoting the service. It could be the pivoting of your positioning, which is like how you present what you're doing in the world, right? But a pivot is required if you're feeling uncomfortable with it. And if your money's making you feel uncomfortable, boom, there you go. Okay. So there's not like a particular number, but you know what you're comfortable with and not comfortable with. Does that make sense, you guys? Let me just double check that I'm answering all your questions. Yeah. So here's how I know I'm working in a good niche for me. My subject matter Okay, I like the subject matter that I'm coaching around or leading around or building products around, like all that is aligned. Like I love it. I geek out on it. I read about it for fun, right? So like the subject matter is good. They are solving a problem that matters to them. Okay? Those both have to be true. So it's my subject matter, but it's also they are solving a problem that they materially care about and that they're investing time, money, and energy in solving. Because there's plenty of things that like I geek out about that are really interesting that no one cares because they're not applying it to a problem. So that's the second thing. Third thing is just like market viability. So meaning like instead of thinking I want to help Debbie or I want to help Trisha or I want to help John, right? Instead of thinking in those terms, it's is there lots of people in the world who are getting help from lots of other coaches and providers with this same thing. So it's super counterintuitive, but you're not looking for a really original problem to solve, something that's like esoteric and weird that nobody's ever really heard of. That's not the vibe. What you're actually looking for is you're looking for a very common problem, something that is a frustrating, common, difficult to solve problem. And the thing that's unique is how you solve it. Okay. So, like, for example, when I'm working with coaches, the thing that I found has helped the most is instead of teaching some other funnel or some new marketing hack or whatever that like most of my competitors are doing, I'm like, hey, how can we do as little as possible to get as much as possible? How can we do what matters so that we get the next 5 clients? Because if you get the next 5 clients, then you're going to have way more confidence with whatever marketing strategy you pursue. But let's first start with the first 5. But I'm solving the same problem everybody is, right? Like, not to diminish what I do, but seriously, like how many people are trying to help people get clients out there? Like a lot, right? So if you've observed the same thing, you're probably getting marketed to by a gajillion people promising you how, here's my one system to get the leads, and here's my one system to make the sales, and here's my one system to be a bodacious coach, right? Like you're probably getting the one system a million different ways from a lot of different people, but you're probably not hearing, hey, let's just focus on the first 5, right? You're probably not hearing that as much, but it's still solving the same problem, right? Yeah, so I hope that that really, really helps. I hear you. Yeah, systems are super, super, super important. And sometimes we got to pivot what's in the system. So let's see. So yeah, am I getting paid well to do what I love, to help people with something that matters? Right? Like those are the 3 things, Tracy. Feeling stuck with social media, email marketing, and outreach phone calls, right? So yeah, I mean, like what I would say is make it smaller. Make it smaller. So instead of like I have to do email and social media and phone outreach, I would start with the most direct path to a result, which is going to be the outreach to your network. That's the fastest, right? And I would focus on that for 90 days straight, right? Just 90 days straight. Because part of the reason why it's so hard to pivot sometimes is because you got too much going on. It's like, what do I pivot? I start doing, like, do I change what I say in my emails? And if I change what I say in my emails, then does that change what I do on my socials? And if that changes what I do on my socials, does that change what I do on my website? And if that changes what I do on my website, do I need to change what I do in my networking? MG, right? Like that is the wrong way to pivot because it's overwhelming, right? Let me know in the chat if your business can sometimes feel a bit overwhelming. So here's what to do instead. So I call this a pivot map. Okay, this is a pivot map because I don't want you to be totally overwhelmed all the time. I do want you to have really meaningful progress in your business. My whole motto tattooed on my arm: do what matters, right? Do what matters. Shout DWM in the chat if you're like, yes, do what matters. Yes, got it. Do what matters. So here's the first step to doing what matters. The very first thing is you have to reflect. You have to reflect. And this is not about being crappy to yourself and saying mean things. Please cut that out, right? Like if that's been a habit of yours, it is time to break up with the mean girl in your head or the mean guy in your head, right? It's just time. You are too busy. You got too much impact to have. You do not have time for that, right? So when you're reflecting, like here's a few things to reflect on. First thing, what has changed in your skills in the last 6 months? Right? Shout out skills in the chat if you're taking notes with me. So reflect, like what has actually changed in your skills? Okay, so that's the first one. The second question to reflect on is what has changed in your passion? Or if passion doesn't work for you, what has changed in your energy level or in your enthusiasm or in your fulfillment in the last 6 months? And by the way, this is the part where this is the part where my private clients go, coach, right? Cuz usually it's like this awful icky death spiral of doom, right? When it comes to the energy level and the passion and the activation for what you do. So, but like just dispassionately or uncritically, like in the last 6 months, how has your passion changed, right? Or your exuberance or your joy or your fulfillment? Last one, how have your client outcomes changed in the last 6 months? Okay, how have your client outcomes changed in the last 6 months? You know what's crazy town is, well, I just think it's interesting. When I say something's crazy town, it's probably not all that crazy. It's just like it's like, huh, it's a huh, you know? So I think something that's really interesting is although I've been working with coaches for years now, and I've worked very intimately with coaches. I've worked programmatically through, with coaches. I've worked with like so many people. I've worked with so many people. I have noticed a kind of macro changes in the challenges. So here's what I mean by that. Like, let's say 6 years ago, the biggest thing that was stopping most coaches was being seen online. Like, they did not want to even post a tweet. They didn't want to post a picture of themselves. Like, it was just like this, like the biggest thing was being seen, right? Now, I would say most coaches are posting to social media. Most people are posting to social media pretty much no problem. Like, that's not the number one obstacle anymore. But I would say the number one obstacle now is actually distraction and overwhelm, right? And prioritization problems, right? So like, but like that's been a macro change and that I've observed. And I don't know if you guys have the same observation that, maybe your friends used to complain about a lot of one thing and now it's 5 years later and they're kind of complaining about something else. Right? It's a very interesting thing to look at, isn't it? So when you reflect on those outcomes and how you're getting them the outcomes and how you feel as you get the outcomes, like all those things are super super important. Yeah. So the three things are, wait, I might be confused, Mona. I apologize. The three things in the pivot map are I just did the first one, which is to reflect. And those were skills, passion, or client outcomes. And I'm just saying that the client journey for helping coaches, it used to be that they were scared to be on social media. And before that, it was they were scared to send an email to their list. And then it was scared to be on social media. Now it's scared that they're going to get totally burnt out and they're completely overwhelmed and distracted all the time. Right? So I don't know if I hit all the things. And if not, just ask again. I'm happy. I'm here for the next 10 minutes. So oh yes, pivot map. This is why we make notes. This is why we make notes. So the first thing is to reflect. The second thing is to refocus. So now that you've got a really good map of where you are or where you've been the last 6 months, let's refocus. So who are you feeling pulled to serve now? Right? Who are you feeling pulled to serve now? And why do they need you? Why do they need you? This actually changes. This is exactly what I'm saying. Like, a few years ago, they needed me because of the social media thing. Now people need me because they need the focus, right? So why do people need you? Who are you pulled to serve and why do they need you? So that's a refocus. So shout out refocus in the chat. This is the visioning part. This is the part where you're like, okay, this was my reality. This is what I would like my reality to be. This is my vision. This is what I want to create. This is where I want to go. Okay? So that's refocus, okay? Refocus. The third thing in the pivot map is to reposition. Okay? So the 3 steps: reflect, refocus, reposition. Reflect, refocus, reposition. So what's repositioning? This is where you start to test a new message softly. So maybe you just start making posts on social media that are more lined up to the new focus. Maybe you talk about it like in your stories or your content Or maybe you're just talking about it in casual conversations with people, because and I'm pro conversation. When I first started as a coach, I was like so scared of people. I was bananas afraid of people. Okay? And here's what I want you to know. People are awesome. On average, people are awesome. The one or two people that are in a bad place, in a bad mood, like they do not represent all of humanity. They are just one person who's having a moment, right? That doesn't even mean that that's how they are all the time. It's just like, I think sometimes as coaches we're very sensitive, we're very emotional, we're very empathetic. And so because of that, we sometimes like see somebody does something kind of like, off-putting or untoward, and we're like, oh, no, like the wholeness of their being is bad. And like, no, they're having a bad moment. Has anybody here ever had a bad day? Just say, I have, right? If you've ever had a bad day. So, like, human beings have bad days. Most human beings are good people. Most are good people. My point is, if you've been scared to start conversations, it's time to stop being scared. It's time to let that go. It's time to say, you know what? It was scary, but I'm going to build some practice in talking to people proactively. I'm going to take an interest. I'm going to be curious. I'm going to tolerate that I'm probably going to feel exhausted by it. Okay, I'm going to tolerate that I'm probably going to be a little exhausted by it because I'm going to be learning how to do something new, and I'm probably going to say the wrong thing, and they're probably going to have judgment for me, and I'm probably going to have to deal with that too. Like, if you just know that kind of going in, doesn't that just make it a lot easier? So have lots of conversations. Just be a person who has a lot of conversations, and then as you're having the conversations and the repositioning, you can be like, I was thinking about, and just like share your idea. I was thinking about helping, these people with this thing. And just like talk it out before you go running around rebranding your website and, picking new colors in Canva and, doing all the things that you have to do to show up in the new way. I just wish people would do like smaller things first and then expand and grow. You don't have to burn it all down. You don't have to burn it all down. And look, I've been there recently. I've been in that place where, you're frustrated that you're not getting the results that you wanted to get, or you're frustrated because you feel like you've done a lot of work and it should have worked by now. And you get into kind of this frustration place where you're like, I want to burn it all down. Don't do that, right? Instead, we can gracefully pivot or, like pause first, right? Reflect, refocus, reposition. When you force a process onto pivoting, it causes you to be more reflective about the change and to also just check in, like, am I being an emotional entrepreneur or am I being a data-driven CEO? Right? Which one do you think is going to get you the best results? Is it being an emotional entrepreneur who's like, every time something that shows up in the world that you don't like, it's all, tears and anger and frustration? Or can you just like look at the data and the information and be like, right, I can make a great empowered decision from here, and my feelings don't have to rule the day, right? And it's not that you shouldn't have feelings. I'm just saying, like, let's be careful about letting our feelings be like the thing that drives everything that we do in business. So you don't have to burn it all down. You just need grace, you need clarity, you need courage, right? And if you've been in a place where you know that you need to pivot, it's time to like ask for help. If you're having a hard time with discerning, this happened to me like a year ago. I was having a hard time discerning what should I work on next? Where should I focus next? Tell me if you've ever felt like this. I felt like I had tried everything. I felt like I'd tried everything. I felt like I'd bought everything. I felt like I'd done everything, and I was just pooped, exhausted, depleted, frustrated. I just felt like I was never going to have another breakthrough. So I hired a coach. And literally within the first session, it was just like, okay, all right, so there are things I haven't tried. Okay, all right, so there are things that I haven't explored just yet. And okay, all right, I've got to do something about my energy and my exhaustion, So make sure that you allow for that space. And of course, if you are looking for more coaching support in that regard, like with somebody who can ask you some questions and, keep it safe, just shout out coffee in the chat and I'll make sure to send you my link to buy me a coffee. If you've already had a coffee from me, sorry, that's one per customer. But if you've never had a coffee with me, just shout out coffee in the chat and I'll make sure to send you the link. And the way it works is you buy me my favorite coffee, sweet vanilla cold cream, sweet vanilla cold brew. That's it. Vanilla sweet cream cold brew. It's the longest name for a coffee ever, and it's delicious. So when you get it, then it'll invite you to book a 20-minute one-on-one call with me, and we'll get that thing sorted. So just remember, like, repositioning yourself can sound super scary, but it's actually 100% necessary. And it's going to be necessary even when you find something that works. And by the way, that's what I was really struggling with, is I had found something that worked and it stopped working and I didn't know what else to do, because I was kind of mourning the thing that was working before, and I had to let that go so that I could create the new thing. And again, it was like that coaching relationship that made a huge difference. That's what I have for you today. Next week, we're going to keep going and we're going to be talking about viral visibility on social media. Like, how do you engineer your posts to be more likely to get shared, commented on, and to grow via social media in a way that doesn't suck? So I'm really excited about that. We're going to talk about it. Got about half an hour planned for you next week. It's going to be 9 a.m. Central if you'd like to join me live. And of course, be in the Clients Over Chaos community for the replay for this one and for the next one. And last thing, we are opening the doors very soon for the first 5 clubs. So we have a video that's going to be getting released later today that's going to talk about the number one limiting belief that has held most coaches back from having as many clients as they desire. I did a whole new video training and it's going to be coming out on email later today, so do watch for that. And I'm really excited to get this new launch kicked off. And if you are interested in being a partner in the launch, you can just say partner and then I'll send you the details to become an affiliate partner for the Coaches Plaza. And that actually brings you half of whoever you refer through your unique link. Half of their membership goes right to you, and you're not limited on how many people you can refer with your link. But we're going to be opening the doors for the launch very soon, and if you want to do that, you've got to go through the registration process. Give us your PayPal. There's like a portal that you have to set up. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt, but then we can track everything properly and give credit where it's due. Love it. Yes, Mona, you can pop this on your calendar. I am here like clockwork every Monday, 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. And then again, if you are a member of the Clients Over Chaos group, then you will have access to all of the replays. Until the next time, my friends, we'll see you soon.